I just feel like this is what love is supposed to feel like, you know? This is what love is supposed to feel like. How far away we get, and the way that things are construed from the separation of self that we journey through, which is just so tied. When I say separation of self, I think like this is more spiritual language on it, or energetic language or positioning frame. And the Western psychology to this is attachment wounds, separation of self, all the same thing to me. It's just whatever language we appreciate best for how we can digest it. And it doesn't matter whatever is your cup of tea, or what temperature you like that tea to be, right? It's all the tea. It's all the tea. So the separation of self energy, the attachment wounds, the attachment styles that we adapt to, learn, train, master as we grow up, which is just strategy for survival. It's not pathology. It's not the truth of your identity. It's information, right? The way that construes our perceptions around love, our capacity to experience love and to receive it, is just so monumental. It's just so monumental. And so when I'm on the other side of this and I have come into this healing of the fractured energy, this integration, and the capacity to truly experience love, not to have it be something that feels so external to me that I am in a position of limbo, of waiting to receive it. When I am in a separation energy, when I'm in an attachment wound frequency, there's where I'll be waiting for somebody else to show up and deliver this love frequency to me. And when I have fully healed this energy, and I don't want to say fully healed, but when I'm in a healed state of being, because there is fluctuation here, there are environmental factors or triggers, if you will, that are going to move things around, that are going to be the patterns of the waves of the ocean that your little ship is sailing upon, right? So I'm not always in a perfectly harmonious, coherent state of being, of inner union, and I don't need to be. I'm at peace with that itself, of there are going to be some waves here, and the more I am at peace with the human nature of that, the more readily I return to the state of the wholeness when I notice that a wave has pushed me to the perimeters, right? No big shake. We know how to get back into the center. If I were to expect myself to constantly maintain that energy of the grounded, centered, anchored oneness and wholeness all of the time, I guarantee you that rigid expectation itself would be pulling me more to the perimeter. It would create resistance as I would be swimming upstream, that river of resistance, on my way to getting back into the centeredness, because a rigid expectation like that is itself part of the frequency of separation, right? And I had a conversation with somebody very similar to this, actually a couple conversations this week. Of course, that's how it goes at themes, as I am working with people who have very much noticed this progression, this return home, this healing, and they are experiencing the gift of being in the observer role. When you come home to yourself this way and your energy, those chasms, those fractures start to close in, and you have a little more steady ground, you get the privilege of being able to witness yourself, the people around you, and the events that unfold. And deeper than all of that, the energy energy underneath all of this. Yes. And this is where people are talking about things. I'm noticing things differently than I ever have. I'm literally seeing detail in my life, in veining of leaves or in the velvet of somebody's glove that I was not seeing before. It's as though I have a brand new set of glasses. If you remember that experience being a little kid, the first time you ever even discovered that you were not seeing 2020, and you come out with your glasses and the adjustment that that takes, but also the gift of observation that that provides. And as they're seeing things differently, there's also the piece of the adjustment. So what this conversation has also entailed, as we're noticing the gifts of the homecoming energy and the way that we are experiencing ourselves and the whole world differently when we have a clear lens provided through the fractures healing out, the separation of self being extracted from us, and from the place of a more aligned and whole energy. We then notice we're more aware of how incoherent or imbalanced energies, or if you want to say like hostile, unintentionally hostile, but harmful energies in our environment, we're more aware in real time of how our own energy field is being affected when we're in the observer role, because we were just so inside of the dynamics of that hurricane that we were never able to experience the storm from the eye. And now we are. So we're having more real time recognition of how energy patterns are affecting our own coherence and our alignment. And I've seen a little bit of that rigidness show up where I'm noticing that this energy is affecting me and I'm not liking it. And it's always affected me my whole life, but I'm seeing it differently and I'm experiencing it differently now from the gift of the observation. And so I have more work here to do. I have more healing here to do. And we discover that there's a rigid and unrealistic expectation that's surfacing here where the person is having this goal for themselves of, when I stay in a complete state of expanded, harmonious wholeness, while I'm around these individuals who are bringing a chaotic, very incongruent, disharmonious energy to the table, to my environment, when I can be in that atmosphere and stay in a harmonious and whole union within, that's how I'll know I have arrived at the level of healing that I am hoping to achieve. And here we are having this information channeled and brought to the table, right? As whole and healed as you could possibly be, you are not meant to spiritually bypass and live in a different dimension. This is welcoming in more concentrated elements of a unified oversoul frequency that is the essence of your eternal being, to come into a state of embodiment as a human more than what you've been able to live. The more coherent and unified your field is, the more of your eternal essence is expanding into the embodiment of this version of self as this human that I am of Miranda. And as that happens, there is a natural, very beautiful, at times during the process disorienting, but for the higher sake of recalibration, shift as my identity moves from these slivers of existence that are so time based and constricted from this is what is in the conscious brain of who this human is as Miranda, right? And that identity can and does carry the programming of the separation of self. As my coherence is coming more online, this is what I mean by inner union. My identity is larger than the memory that is stored from this plane of time, from my 36 years to date, right? It is matching more and more my soul frequency, which is certainly not confined to these 36 years. Yes? And back to the main line here that I'm wanting to share to break those rigid expectations of my goal is when I can maintain this perfectly harmonious state of being, no matter what toxic or chaotic frequencies I'm around. This is not realistic. This is not realistic. You know, when you do transition and you go to the other dimension, and what I mean by that is you leave this body and you're done living this life, right? This is where you're going to be in a different frequency and you're just going to, things are different, right? The point is, you're meant to be living as an embodied human, a soul embodied in the human experience. And so your atmosphere is going to affect you. It's going to affect you. So this is not about you learning how to become so, what's the word I want to say? Like the idea of being able to have your energy be completely unaffected by other frequencies is in itself a belief tied to separation. Oneness knows your energy speaks before your body does, right? You're like the frequency is you're going to be affected if you are in the most unified state of healing that you have ever experienced in your life, and then you go and you live in the same home with somebody whose energy is really distorted, very much in toxicity and a separation of self. The frequency of that incoherent energy is going to affect your field. It is going to affect your field. This is not for you to figure out how to have an ironclad energy field that is impermeable. That's not oneness, right? This is how do we maintain an allegiance to alignment? How do we maintain and function in the current? And so we want to even say maintenance is not the right word there, because that infers manufacturing or like work or control, right? So we're not going to say maintenance. We're going to say, how do you honor when dolphins have the like echo sound location kind of thing? Their frequency is sending out a field that then like a biofeedback returns to them almost through it. I don't know. I have to look that up, but there's something about that that's coming through as a frame of reference here, right? Trust what you're perceiving in your field. If you're perceiving something that doesn't feel good when you're around another person who is really emanating an incoherent toxic energy, you don't take that on and absorb it as a sign that you are inside of a wounded energy, right? You can also learn to just trust your own radar from the place of coherence. If something is reaching back into that kind of biofield that you have that says like, oh, that doesn't feel good. You trust that. You trust that, and you move with allegiance to your alignment. Okay, that doesn't feel good, so I'm going to move away from that. I'm going to be mindful of how much exposure I have there. I'm going to be aware of what kind of access other energies are having to me. And this is where we are in a state of the divine protection that your own alignment and allegiance to that alignment provides to you.